Hey everybody, we're back. Fantasy Author's Handbook. It's Phil. March 2024, we're going to do the wrap-up video for the month. This should be a pretty quick one. It's been a busy month. It's been a lot of work, a lot of work around the house, just work, and etc. So we're just going to kind of run through two things for the month: books read, and we're going to take a look at the blog and talk about a couple other things. And I'm going to do a separate book haul video for March this year, or this month, because I did actually go to a bookstore. I went to a used bookstore and I bought a bunch of stuff. Not like a crazy, it's not going to be 2 hours and 5 different videos worth of super giant book hauls or anything like that. But there's some stuff in there, enough stuff that I think it's a separate video, and it won't make this one go too long, because I'm very sensitive about how long these videos can sometimes be. All right, what do we jump into? How about books read? What did I actually read, or what is we know the rules by now. It's the books that I have actually finished in the month of March of the year 2024. We'll also look at what I'm currently reading, a few of which are the same as you saw in the previous video for what comes before March for February. I haven't really been sleeping either. I have trouble sleeping. I don't know if you have trouble sleeping. Anyway, the first book I finished in this, I almost said this year. I maybe should prepare for these videos. I should be reading from a script. I'm not going to. Growing Great Characters from the Ground Up by Martha Engberg. We looked at this in the previous month's video. This was the Fantasy Authors Handbook Goodreads group read book for March. I read it. I commented on it. We talked about it on the Fantasy Authors Handbook Goodreads group, which you haven't joined that? You got to join that. It's totally free. And every other month, I do the talking. I can talk. We're going to read a book together. This is the second one. The first was Take Joy by Jane Yolen. We will then spend the month of April looking for a new book, right? Nominations, voting, etc. And then in May, we will read that together. I don't know what it's going to be. Go join that Goodreads group, and you will be able to nominate, you will be able to vote, and then maybe you will be the person who essentially brings a new book on the art and craft of writing. Science fiction, fantasy, horror, or it in general, which is what this book is. I like this one, and you will see on the blog, which we'll get to, I did a whole Books for Fantasy Authors post on this where I called out some of this, or I copied out a lot of the things that I copied from the book, right, and put in my notes. So we'll get into that there. Really pretty good, right? A very good overview of characters in fiction. She says in fiction and nonfiction. I think it's probably of more use to the fiction author, which is really pretty much what we talk about here. Yeah. So growing great characters from the ground up, our Goodreads group read. And it was good. This is good. It's got some really good advice, especially if you're sort of just beginning your journey as an author. This is definitely recommended because it gets into sort of the basic stuff and then goes advanced, which is really cool. All right. Oops, careful. That's a keeper. All right. Random. You've been watching the random TBR pile videos, right? Because there's 2 of them already and there's one more coming. Our random book, or the first of the 2 that I finished this month, was Almuric by Robert E. Howard. Oh, right. So I'm a Robert E. Howard fan, from forever ago, from Marvel comic books when I was 8, 9 years old, and then discovered the actual, source material, the Robert E. Howard stories. This is Almuric. It says Conan in there very prominently. It's a science fantasy classic by the creator of Conan, so this is not a Conan book. I got this edition. Where did I get this? I don't know. It was chosen from the giant stacks at random. So you saw that go down. And look at this. I dig this. I mean, this is very, very cool. This is an old Berkeley Medallion book. It folds out. I got to figure out how to hold this so that you can see how just super extra this is. That's how extra this is. I'm going to do it. I can't see if you can see that. This is the wrap cover art. I will put down in a caption the name of the artist. He's not credited in the book itself that I can see, but I did find that, I believe, out there in the internet, and I will share it on. So this one, Imagine, again, it's not Conan. I don't think that this character, Esau Cain, has ever been seen or heard from again after this story, which was originally published in Weird Tales, I believe. Was it Weird Tales? It was Weird Tales in 3 installments in May, June, July, and August issues of 1939. I'm going to drop links in here for the original Weird Tales magazines, which you can find for free, and I'll link those PDFs. So if you want to read Almuric in its original Weird Tales form, you can do that free of charge. Welcome to the giant database of pulp magazines. And while you're there, look through the rest of that website, because there's some amazing stuff. There's so much there. It will just, you're welcome for the rest of your life just reading old pulp magazines. But anyway, Almuric is, can't say it's my favorite work by one of my favorite authors, but it was tons of fun. It was just, you have to kind of do that thing where you have to do sometimes with old like pulp stuff, to sort of turn off that executive function of your brain, and just go, I'm just going to have fun with this. It's not something to be offended by or to take too seriously. It was only meant to entertain. It was meant to be a little on the silly side, I think. And in fact, this one in particular, I got the distinct feeling, I have no actual, data to back this up, that some editor, the editor at Weird Tales, somebody said, hey, Bob, you know what you should do is one of those Edgar Rice Burroughs kind of Sword and Planet stories, right? The science fantasy story, like the John Carter of Mars series, and the other ones that Burroughs wrote that were amazing and fantastic. I'm a huge John Carter of Mars fan. And I think Robert E. Howard kind of didn't want to do that, but he was like, fine, here we go. If I'm going to be forced to do that, I'm going to dial this up. And I mean dial it up. This is like, so imagine John Carter, if you've read those books, or basically any sort of action hero, continuously suffering from a near-fatal overdose of testosterone supplements. This is just male power fantasy, literally on steroids. It's demented, crazy, wild story with a character that it's like, the heck is this guy? He's we'll call him a non-traditional hero, but it is one of those things that just kind of has this really clunky, very Edgar Rice Burroughs pastiche kind of openings, and then just piles through. It just charges through. It's very short, right? This is a, pretty decent sized book-ish, pretty short book actually, but this is what the text looks like. So it's really airy. There's just a lot in there, a lot of white space in there. So this is something that, if you can handle that much testosterone-fueled mega action, you can knock off pretty quickly. I loved it, or I liked it. I don't know that I loved it. It's not Conan, it's not Solomon Kane, it's Almuric. It's its own very unique and special crazy beast. And boy, if you can find this edition, I don't think this is going to be easy to find, but this fold-out cover poster thing, super, super groovy. Almuric by Robert E. Howard, read in the month of March 2024. This is going to switch gears a little bit, but actually not as much as it may seem. The Weird and the Eerie by Mark Fisher, who is kind of a, literary theorist slash philosopher, right? Both simultaneously. Maybe has kind of a Marxist bent to him, which I always find a little bit, kind of, frankly, a little bit old-fashioned and irritating. There, I said it. Calm down. But this was interesting. This is, really takes a look at what these words mean in relation to a style of fiction. What do we mean by the weird? So obviously if you're watching this, you've heard me talk about H.P. Lovecraft, who is sort of the king of weird fiction. Why do we call it weird fiction? What does that mean exactly? And how is that different from the eerie? And I think he does a good job of breaking that down. Most of the rest of the book then is him, providing examples for that. Yeah. So I won't go into sort of exactly what he says in here. I think this will probably it may end up being another Books for Fantasy Authors blog post. Very skinny, not a lot to it, right? It's not going to take the rest of your life. And as busy it's been, you can see that I read 4 books, and so that's great, right? That's averaging my book a week that I want to do, but they're all like pretty skinny. And it's really not. I got kind of caught up in a lot of work and a lot of other stuff. But I will recommend this. It's not necessarily, I would say, a super must-read, like you will just not be able to understand horror fiction or movies unless you read this. That's not true. But it's illuminating. It's interesting. There are some interesting points, and the distinction between the weird and the eerie, I think, is really worth discussion. And he is not, I don't believe that he is incorrect in his assertions. So that's good. Yeah. The Weird and the Eerie by Mark Fisher, recommended, qualified recommendation. And then the next random book, right? Because I finished Almuric, it means I had to roll the dice, and you'll see these in the videos. If you watch some videos, you got to watch the videos about the random TBR files. Oh man, literally chosen at random from 400 plus books. Stan Lee presents Spider-Woman in just such deplorable condition. This poor book was just run ragged, and it turns out it is an ex-library copy. It's hard to tell. It's Castro Valley Library somewhere. It's hard to see. They did a good job of crossing that out. I want to say it may be in Virginia. You can see that they've stamped, right, where kids have checked this out. I'm going to say kids. I would have checked it out. I read the whole thing cover to cover. So Spider-Woman came out, this is 1978, these were originally published. Most of them are written by Marv Wolfman and actually drawn by Carmine Infantino. The book is really great because it's in color. Yeah. Art was good. Stories were really surprisingly robust, and this was the era, 1978. These stories came out, or thereabouts, where I was really like reading and buying and collecting and being, essentially obsessed with Marvel Comics in particular. This one never really got to me. I think, I was aware that there was a Spider-Woman, and I think I was kind of rolling my eyes like, do we have to do a, kind of a knockoff Spider-Man? I didn't really get it. And because I didn't have a comic book store, I don't even know, I think there may have been one comic book store in the city of Chicago. I lived in the suburbs, couldn't get there. I'm a little kid now. So imagine a little kid Phil buying comic books from the spinner rack from a convenience store. So I was really kind of I was limited by what that little store would actually bring in on a very limited spinner rack. So never really got Spider-Woman, never read it. And, had no expectations going in. I just thought it'll be fun, right? What could be bad, So I really went in super cold, had no idea what to expect. This was really surprisingly dark. Yeah. This isn't just a Spider-Man knockoff at all. It isn't. She has the same exact powers as Spider-Man, and she was bitten by a radioactive spider. Similar to that, right? But there's a whole backstory. She was really created by the High Evolutionary, and there's a lot of the magic kind of stuff, the Doctor Strange kind of spin-off stuff in here. Werewolf by Night makes an appearance. Yeah, Morgan Le Fay. So there's a lot of this sort of ancient magic stuff going on. It gets rough, it gets dark, it gets kind of like people get killed, people get hanged, people get shot. It's crazy. Political corruption, corporate greed and corporate murder and assassination. I don't know. I was really surprised by how kind of grown up Spider-Woman could be. I do wish that this was in in nicer condition, of course, but all pages were there. One thing I can caution you, especially if you are a reader of a certain age, I use reading glasses just because you do once you hit like 50 anyway. This challenged me even with the reading glasses on because it's a mass market size paperback, obviously. A comic book would be much bigger in the day. And so these were shrunk down and then forced into a different even kind of, configuration there. So this type is wee. It is wee. And the printing is a little bit, cheap. It's not on glossy paper at all. It's very much the comic book of the day, the newsprint, like the Sunday comics. So the printing isn't always really great, especially when there's sort of white type on black. Good luck with that. I could read a lot of it, but not all of it. So drawback there is just accessibility. It can be hard to actually see, but still just really fun. I gobbled it right up, obviously, very short, which is good because if you saw those videos about the giant 400 book TBR random pile there, at the kind of current reading velocity that I'm in, it might be as much as 40 years before I finish all those books, which is crazy. And I'm going to keep buying books. Maybe I bought at least one that goes in there and that you'll see in the March book haul video. But what's the solution to that? Read them faster. So that's what I'm trying to do. This one was easy to do because it's shorter. It's comic books. It's not very skinny in the first place. But there you go. Stan Lee presents Spider-Woman, and I loved it. It was really good. It was surprising. And I don't mean that in the way that it sounds like, no, it was actually not the worst thing I've ever read in my life. Shocking. All right, so that was books read in March of 2024. Let's take a breath. Oh, God, take a breath. We'll come back and run through the 5 books that I am currently reading. And then we'll get into the blog posts, and that should be it. See you real soon. Okay, that was fast. I'm back. Let's talk about what I'm reading right now. So by now, right, I read 5 books at a time. Here they are. Oh, there's 5 of them, right? Oh, tremendous. In 5 different categories. So let's do those categories in order. Primary fiction, I call it. Oh, sounds so official and scary. Basically, that just means a novel or short story collection or anthology that I'm reading because I want to. And I do try to, because I want to read as great a variety of stuff, I switch off between the sort of genre stuff, science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and then I read one of those. The next one, any other genre, literary, historical, crime, etc. This is science fiction. I think this was on the video last time. I'm working my way through this pretty slowly. Painkillers by Simon Ings. I'm not going to say I'm struggling with it, because when I do sit down to read it, it starts to come back and I understand and I remember who everybody is, what they're doing, where I am. It jumps around in time, and a lot of it is telling a story of sort of political corruption and organized crime in Hong Kong around the time that stopped being part of the British Empire and went over to China. And then there's some kind of like very creepy kind of horror / science fiction element to it. It's interesting. I like the writing. Am I connecting with it in that sort of, this is going to be one of my favorite books of all time? So far, no, but it's not forcing me to DNF it. So, you know, as I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, maybe that's the best kind of book, is something that leaves you thinking, guessing, trying to figure it out, not sure how you feel about it. There's a lot going on in here. There's a lot to this. Painkillers by Simon Ings. I will finish reading this. Come back on the next video, the April video. It'll be done. So then, having finished The Weird and the Eerie by Mark Fisher, looking for something that is very different, because again, for me, it's about the variety. It's about different voices, different things, different subjects. We're going Fran Lebowitz here. I don't care. My kids make fun of me that I'm a Fran Lebowitz fan. I'm a Fran Lebowitz fan. If you haven't seen that Netflix mini series on her, I don't know. I just find her, you know, funny and interesting and smart, clever. So this is the Fran Lebowitz Reader. It actually combines her two books, Metropolitan Life and Social Studies, her sort of great books, really like looking at everything in the 70s, like culture, movies, just everything filtered through this filterless intellect. Yeah. So I haven't actually begun reading it. I just picked it up. And then I've been busy reading other stuff. And again, work has just been busy this month. So that's the excuse. But by this time next month, we believe that we will be talking about what I thought of the Fran Lebowitz Reader. I'm looking forward to actually getting into that. Next up is the random paperback. You've been watching those videos, right? So having finished Spider-Woman, I picked another book at random, and look at this one came up. Like, gets into a little bit of the variety. Obviously, if you've been watching those videos, you see loads and loads of science fiction and fantasy anthologies. Obviously, a lot of science fiction novels, fantasy novels, you know, a good portion of horror in there. But then a small minority of books that don't fall into those genres, and this is one of them that, again, came up completely at random today. John D. MacDonald, again, this is one I haven't actually started because today I finished Spider-Woman and picked this out, but picked this out at random. Haven't started reading it. It won't be my first novel by John D. MacDonald. My parents were huge fans of his and were reading him like really when I was a little kid, like in the 70s. And so here we go, right? Crime, really kind of hard-boiled crime fiction, right, in that old school sense. John D. MacDonald, The Deceivers. You know, right, with that groovy art, you know. I'm going to look up just sort of when this was published. And it was copyright 1958. This edition looks like it probably is more recent than that. But this is what I'm reading at random. The random paperback is The Deceivers by John D. MacDonald. Still working on the same long book. These long books you're gonna see the same book over and over again. Working on the Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. I'm almost finished with the first book here, Shadow of the Torturer. I'm loving this. This is one of those books that have been on my list of, hey, how is it possible you haven't read this one? Everyone talks about it. Everyone's been talking about it for like 35 years. I'm coming up on 40 years. What are you doing, man? And so finally, I got these great Tor Essentials editions. Don Mate's cover art, terrific. And I'm caught up in this. I'm kind of making myself just do 2 chapters a day so I have a steady progress. I'm kind of taking some notes, on it and stuff. Really, really loving it so far. So that, there's this, which is the first 2 books. There's another volume with the last 2 books, and then there's a 5th kind of standalone thing. I'm going to read all of them as I go along. So I'm going to be holding this one up probably for another little bit, and then the next one, and then the next one. And then we'll be talking as we go about how great these are. I hope that he sustains this, man. I really hope he sustains this, because so far that first book is really, really good. Really, really good. And then this one's in a plastic bag, so I'll take it out. The last one, the number 5, is always a long series and alternating in order. And the last one that I read was a issue of Paris Review from a couple of years ago. So that was the Lit Mag, and so that then switches over to an Ace Double. I love my Ace Doubles. I have a big collection, not a complete collection yet, of Ace Doubles. This one I picked out to read. So I have finished reading The Spaceborne by E.C. Tubb, which is not the first story ever to have a generation ship. This is Orphans of the Sky at least predates it by like a decade or more. But he was the first, E.C. Tubb, to coin that actual specific term, generation ship, the Spaceborne. It was I loved it. It was weird. It was kind of like, imagine kind of a cop drama, where it's like kind of corrupt cops, and then there's like the corrupt mayor, but in this case it's the captain, and there's all that kind of shenanigans and people getting set up and knocked off, and all that kind of stuff, witnesses being suppressed and hidden away and so on, but within the context of they have been on this starship for 300 years. And all the laws are basically built around don't waste anything, don't screw up anything, stay in your lane, right, in your assigned job. And everybody wears different color shorts to determine, to sort of show where they came from. Super cool. It was just old school, just sci-fi, fantastic, but with some real ideas about organization within a closed system, and how kind of societies can be built around a very strict set of rules, then stagnate, and then inevitably somebody decides, well, hey, what if those rules don't necessarily apply to, say, like me? But really a lot going on in this half of the Ace Double. On the other half is what I'm reading now. I got a pretty good start on The Man Who Japed by Philip K. Dick. These are the hard ones to find of the Ace Doubles, the Philip K. Dicks, because there are Philip K. Dick collectors out there. I'm pretty well into this, and I'm trying to read again. I'm trying to read more. I'm really redoubling my efforts to spend more time reading. And though busy month coming up again, I'm going to do my best to do that. So you will definitely, in the next video, you will hear my thoughts about The Man Who Japed. And follow me on Goodreads, and you'll see the review there anyway. But a good setup so far, right? Semi kind of dystopian corporate future, and this guy who feels like a very kind of Don Draper guy is coming up against that in a very strange and unusual, very Philip K. Dick way. I'm very excited about this one. I love my Ace Doubles. I love them even more when the books are good. How about that? So those are the books that I am reading right now as of, well, not exactly the very end of March. I'm actually shooting this on the 29th. But those are the books that I'm reading right now. Okay. Last on this one, because again, we're talking about books that I bought in March. It will be a separate book haul video. Let's look at the blog post for this month on Fantasy Author's Handbook. You will find links. You must subscribe. There's no reason not to subscribe. You get an email every Tuesday, and you're like, yay, Phil has written something about writing fantasy, science fiction, horror, fiction in general, and more. So this month, starting on the 5th, it's always every Tuesday, I struggle with AI. I don't really, but then I do, or should I? And I don't know. I'm against it in terms of using it to write books or teaching it to write books, teaching it to do any version of art. I'm against corporations creating a thing that eliminates human creativity and starts feeding us produced crap written by a machine, not even written by a machine, but cobbled together by a plagiarism device. If you follow me at all on social media, it's coming to kind of dominate my mindset because I just feel like this is monumentally dangerous. However, I'm not like some kind of crazy Luddite guy who's like, oh, we were better off years ago, back in the days when I used to, scratch away at books with my quill pen on papyrus or whatever. I live in the real world. I live in the present. I'm a one-person operation here at World Headquarters of Athens and Associates Creative Consulting. I exist online at all times. I'm sitting in front of like a $2,000 Mac Mini setup, talking to you through a iPhone 15 Pro in blue titanium like a boss. So it's not like I'm, Woody Allen going like, oh, I don't understand how a computer works. I've never even seen one. Right? So this isn't just me saying, oh, I'm old and so technology is scary and weird and I'm against it. I'm not. I'm against this. Okay? I'm against this thing. So in this first blog post, Searching for the Soul of AI, I started to try to confront that. Like, okay, maybe rather than just take a side, which anyone from the outside would just be like, well, this is Phil trying not to have his entire business destroyed by some editing app or writing app. Okay? And so, of course, he's just fighting against the rising tide of technology that cannot be stopped. So, and I struggle with that, right? Because I have an experience that I talked about in the post. Please read it. Because the post itself is more articulate because I had a minute to think than I'm being right now. But I had experiences where I saw people who were being unnecessarily old. And I'm not talking about literally in age, right? Because every year a year goes by, right? And I don't care who you are. If you're here for 60 years, you're going to kind of more likely look like this than, a movie star or whatever. Keanu Reeves is like exactly my same age. Does he look different than me? Of course he does, because there's millions of dollars at stake for him in looking like that. Whatever. So it's not about the years that you have spent. It's about, are you kind of keeping up at least a little bit? Are you living in the world now? And so I had to kind of confront myself a little bit about this. Like, am I just seeing these new tools, because people keep calling them tools, and I keep railing against that? as some kind of an existential threat that they aren't. Because let's be honest, right now you can go to whatever the most advanced large language model or LLM or chatbot and say, write me a Stephen King novel. And what you will get will be a step up from the gibberish that it used to be, but it'll still clearly not be a novel written by a human being, let alone a human being who's been doing it for 50 years and does it really well and has been selling a lot of books that were written by him that are products of his human imagination. Yeah, so it's not like right now you can just dial up a novel bypassing everybody. That does appear to be the goal, and that's where it becomes a huge problem. It's not about, am I going to be replaced by an app today? It's, is everyone going like me, right? Whether that's an editor or an author, even worse, but an editor too. Are we all going to be replaced? And then if we're not doing art anymore, what the hell are we here for? Are we actually having a machine or a set of machines forced on us by people who obviously are not artists and have no respect whatsoever for artists, writers, publishing, etc. Having these machines forced on us that will eliminate us because, yay, now it's democratized. Now everybody's a writer. Now everybody's an artist. Now everybody's a singer. Now everybody's a musician. No, that's not what's happening. The end game appears to be not that everybody's a writer, it's that nobody's a writer. And if we're not doing art, if we're not making art as a species, then what the hell are we doing? Is this the future that we're looking for, just to be consumers who passively wander around and say, oh, music which is happening right now, everybody. Music is just background. It could be anything and I don't care. And I'm just surrendering to Spotify and they're just going to make noise at me and I'm going to accept that as music. You know? These things are not ready to do any of that right now. They're not ready to do that right now. And, you know, you're seeing it now. I mean, music is almost completely lost. Not really, though, right? Where you have artists like Taylor Swift. I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, and it's okay for Taylor Swift. I'm just out of the target demographic, but I get it. But she's an actual human who actually makes human songs with her actual voice and with her, you know, playing a guitar and stuff. This is her actual art. She is an actual artist, and she's monumentally successful. So it isn't like music has been taken over only and exclusively by the DJs just kind of blasting out, right? There's a lot of that. Hopefully that goes away soon, you know. And what I'm hoping for is that doesn't become all of music. The fact that Taylor Swift is absolutely the biggest star in the world and she's actually a musician and she's actually a songwriter is a good sign. And the fact that there are people like all of the booktubers that I'm watching and all of the authors that I work with every day. Every day I'm working with authors who are coming into this fresh, just starting out, who are finding their own way into it, and they're creating new stuff that's interesting, that is coming out of their own imagination, which is everything they've ever read, every TV show they've ever seen, every relationship they've ever had in real life being filtered through this creative, mysterious quantum thing that's between our ears and put out there in some really, you know, unique way. So we're okay for now. And what the problem isn't today, right? You can see, if you're online for like 10 seconds, you will see ridiculous AI art things where people have like 15 hands and it's clearly just other people's art mushed together in a way that a set of algorithms think, yup, right? And no. But again, it's not about what these things this thing can do today. It's about what this thing is going to be able to do next year, when billions of dollars are being poured into this. Billions of dollars are being poured into this. Good news, there's some lawsuits that are saying, hey man, you can't just steal books, you can't just go online to book pirate sites and then dump all of that stuff into your thing to teach your idiot non-entity machine to be a writer. Because what you're doing there is you're saying, here's some stuff that you can mine so that you can create a mass plagiarism blob of other people's stuff all mixed together that has no brain or thought or creativity or understanding or consciousness or life behind it. It's all of those things that it can't do that they're working on that terrifies the crap out of me. Will I survive to see the end of human creativity? I hope not. And the fact that I'm not the only person saying no to this is good. The fact that serious people are going to court about this is good. So again, I don't know. Read that post. Please understand that if we lose creativity, we lose everything. And I'm not a conspiracy person at all. This isn't like, oh God, everybody has to, go start prepping or whatever. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Be aware of it though. Fight back against it. And when somebody tries to sell you, oh, I had ChatGPT write this short story for me, just turn your back on that. Walk away from that. Don't buy it. Don't participate in it. And for the love of all that's holy, don't actually do it. Don't use one of these machines to write, because you're not. You're using one of those machines to copy from a cloud of other people's work that was gobbled up illegally. Breathing. Let's move on. The next post from the 12th was, don't kill your darlings. Every once in a while, I hear, you hear the advice. There's always the same advice. It's the show, don't tell. It's the one scene, one POV. It's the this, that, and the other thing. Sometimes those advice is, that advice is good. I've done a whole thing about what do we really mean by show, don't tell? What really is an info dump and all that kind of stuff. And it's not, it's not binary. It's not always show and never tell. Every once in a while, there's a piece of writing advice that goes around out there, like the whole prologue thing, which is just like, makes me do this face. Don't kill your darlings is one of those. It's advice that was sort of attributed to all sorts of different people. Dylan Thomas, William Faulkner, who didn't really say it. It seems that this guy, Arthur Quiller Couch, said it in a Cambridge lecture 110 years ago. And then other people have picked this up for some unknown reason. And I think whoever started it needed to not say this. And it certainly shouldn't be passed around because it's god-awful, terrible advice. Okay, so you're writing a work email memo kind of thing, and you're like, hey team, here's the new process to do the TPS reports. In that email, kill your darlings, right? In there should be no flight of literary fancy. That I understand, right? If you are writing a very specific how-to book, you want to, this is the instruction of how to actually make this thing happen. If you're writing fiction, it should all be fucking darlings. It should all be darlings. You should cut everything but the darlings. If you're not sitting there looking at what you just wrote and going, there it is. The light of the muses have shined down from the heavens upon me, and I have filtered this through my genius and created words that will last for all time into when the AIs finally take over and use it to make a different book. But you keep that. Be your first fan. If you're reading something in your work and you're saying, oh my God, that is just the most darling goddamn paragraph of all time. And then you remember, oh, yeah, Dylan Thomas said kill your darlings, even though I'm not sure he actually did. So I guess I better just cut that. You are damaging your work. Okay? Don't kill your darlings. Keep your darlings. Nurture your darlings. Give your darlings a hug. Leave the darlings there. Okay? It's the paragraph where you're kind of like, work on that one. Listen to the still small voice that says, is this even making sense? I don't even know. And then start working on that paragraph. The paragraph or the sentence, yeah, where you're just like, hell yeah. That's the one you keep. You keep the darling. Oh, don't kill your darlings. Read the post. It's there for free. Oh my God. This month, I don't know. I think I just started getting like angry with stuff. Like, so the next one was called Stop Already with Tropes. I've been threatening to talk about tropes. I just don't want to do it on a video right now. I could read the thing. Not everybody was happy with me about the subgenre videos where I basically said, I know you're out there having fun with grimdark, and I don't want to poop on that. You know what I mean? Have fun with what? Call it whatever you want. Call it whatever you want, right? Are these subgenres? Okay, I guess if you say it is. Or are they trends, or are they marketing tags, right? But it's the tropes that drive me really crazy, because honestly, the way they're used, first of all, that word, it rankles me. It just feels like a bypass through thinking, right? Like I read this book and I have to say something interesting about it right now, and I don't know what to do, and I don't. So I'm going to compare it to the list of tropes on whatever website that has tropes on it, or whatever we're talking about now, and so it's enemies to lovers, or it's this, that, and the other. Calm down with that, right? Because what we're doing is we're doing that thing that we talked about in the subgenre video about creating boxes, and then ever smaller boxes, and then a box within a box, and then a box is kind of a Venn diagram, but really we're in this little box. Until finally I only read a dark academia, enemies to lovers, romantasy, and that is it. What are you doing? Right? What are you doing? I don't want to hear about tropes. I don't want to hear about how we're limiting. I don't want to hear about how we're wrangling a thing. Yeah? Leave that one to the tech bros who are disrupting publishing. Nobody asked you to disrupt it. Why do we have to take something that's magical, a work of art, and grab it and squeeze it and destroy it and reduce it in some way, so that we can say, oh, I'm smarter than the author, and so I know that that it has these tropes, and this is how the tropes stack up. Who cares? I've been doing this, guys, since 1986, and I don't do that. I don't sit down and list out the tropes in a book that I'm editing. I don't think about a writing project as I'm going to do this trope, and then I'm going to avoid that trope. These are the tropes that are popular, and these are the tropes that everybody hates all of a sudden. Who's everybody? I'm hearing that everybody hates prologues and no one reads prologues, which is demented. I hate this word. I hate this concept. Please stop doing it. It's hurting everybody. It's hurting you as a reader. It's hurting the authors. It's hurting agents who now have to try to figure out, how do we talk in that language, and how do we reduce things, which is already hard for anybody who's trying to sell a work of art or a work of fiction. I hate this. Read the post, hear me roar, and as with everything, I don't have, this comes without congressional action. Do what you want to do. But what if we all just loved everything and gave everything its own read and took everything at face value and looked widely around at all of the different forms of art and just loved this and loved that for what it is, not for how it's broken down into this little thing that I can, what do? You put it in your pocket. I have a pocket right here for friends to love. What are you doing, right? Just stop reducing stuff. Stop reducing stuff. Let art be big. Okay? Ending the month on the much less controversial. I don't even think this is controversial. Am I the only one who doesn't think this is controversial? My opinion is always smarter than everybody's. I held this up earlier. The last post for the month on the 26th was Books for Fantasy Authors, number 40. You know what? I'm in this for the long haul. I didn't just crawl out of bed this morning, man. Growing great characters from the ground up. So, there's not much more to say. Go to that, and you will read just sort of semi out of context bits that I pulled out of there that I thought were really interesting and definitely worth a read and considering when you are creating characters. And as with every single book about the craft of writing, including all the ones that I've written, right? Go through this and just sort of say, right? What about that? I don't know about that. Like, for instance, she is growing great characters, and throughout the whole thing, it's a gardening metaphor. It didn't really work for me because I'm not, as a reluctant homeowner, I kind of struggle with the yard, and I don't want to. So just personally, it was kind of like, I get it. It's about it's a flower bed or something. I don't know. But beyond that, inside of that, there was really, really solid, really common sense advice, most of which I completely agreed with. I'm like, yes, absolutely. Oh, I've said the exact same thing over and over again. And then a couple of things that I disagreed with, which I love to see because, right, the hell do I know? And I'm always looking for new ideas. I'm always reading these, right? This wasn't just some sort of promo exercise like, oh, Phil's got this Goodreads group and he's trying to sell. I'm not. I read books on writing all the time. I read books of, like you saw with The Weird and the Eerie, of sort of literary theory and the philosophy of art and writing and creativity and stuff like that all the time, right? It is a lifelong educational process, all of this. The one thing that every author needs to have, most of all, intellectual curiosity. And so with this kind of writing advice, soak up what you can. Soak up what you want. Agree with what you agree with. Disagree with what you disagree with. Try stuff. And from this, you will add to your knowledge of the craft of writing fiction. And so right there, success. Get it. Growing great characters from the ground up. And anyway, you can go to the blog and see some actual little extracts from it that will give you a sense of the writing and sort of what she's talking about. Okay? I feel good. I feel cleansed a little bit. I got some stuff off my chest. Yay. March 2024, busy, lots of work, not as much reading as I wanted to. The blog, I think, got into some stuff this month, which is good. Every Tuesday, Fantasy Authors Handbook, all the links below. And there will be very, very soon a March 2024 book haul, so look for that. It won't be huge, it won't be hours long. And actually, as I'm recording this just today, I posted the second part of the giant random paperback TBR stacks. And there's one more part to go. That probably will be next week, Wednesday, Thursday-ish. So more content coming, and I promise that I'm going to stop just being only these wrap-up videos and the occasional book haul. We'll be talking about writing. We will be talking about writing in the month ahead and the weeks and the et ceteras ahead, right? So stay here, do all the things of subscribing and whatever else, because God knows, here we are in the algorithm dystopia. You know, do with all of this as you will, you free, individual, unique, special snowflakes of humans out there. We are all artists. Go be artists. Go love art. Write some stuff. And I will see you again real soon with the book haul video and more. And then we'll wrap up again at the end of April. And we're just going to keep going because books are awesome. And science fiction and fantasy is awesome. Horror is awesome. All books are awesome. All authors are awesome. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you again soon.